Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. So we are 2 days away from the swearing in of Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister of India. We've already seen a really interesting run-up period to swearing in, including the dramatic gesture to invite leaders from SAARC. And from all indications, the next few weeks and months could also have a very heavily packed policy agenda. So we are in really exciting times. But what we're going to do in this episode of Big Fight is really take a look at Narendra Modi, the new Prime Minister, the person, and try and get some sense of what we think. Nobody really knows what Modi is going to do next. I keep hearing that from various people inside the BJP. At the end of the day, only he really knows what's going to happen next. But try and get some sense of what we can expect in the next few weeks and months going forward, and especially the immediate period as we get the swearing in and just after. And we have a great panel to help us understand both Narendra Modi, the man, and also perhaps his immediate agenda. I'm going to start off by welcoming here in the Delhi studio Niranjan Mukhopadhyay, senior journalist, who's his biographer, the man who wrote Narendra Modi, the man, the times. I think you call it an unauthorized biography, right?
Well, it is not an authorized biography. The manuscript was not shared with him. It's a biography which was done with due access to Mr. Modi. He decided that he would grant me access to him, while knowing fully well that the manuscript would not be shared with him. Okay,
fair enough. We have Dr. Maqsood Al-Hasan Kazmi also with us, the chairman of the Imam Council of India, joining us right here in the studio. Shiv Vishwanathan is with us, sociologist, who's been trying to understand this entire phenomena, which has led to one of the most stunning results in 30 years. Gardner Harris is with us, a South Asia correspondent to the New York Times, been covering this really exciting and interesting election. And then we've got with us some of the people really who've been fairly instrumental, I have to say, in the rise of Narendra Modi to becoming Prime Minister. We have with us Ajay Singh joining us, former director of SpiceJet, but more recently very closely involved with the Narendra Modi campaign. One of the people who came up with that very famous slogan, "Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar," which became an internet meme, if nothing else. So Ajay, great to have you with us. Manoj Ladva, founder of India Inc., somebody else who closely worked with the Modi campaign and has worked in the past of getting foreign investors in and connected to Narendra Modi, part of that entire story. So Manoj, thanks for being with us. And Zafar Sareshwala joining us as well from Mumbai. Zafar started off as a very strong critic of Narendra Modi, but in more recent times has become a supporter, and is quite often seen as one of the most prominent faces of Muslim support for Narendra Modi. So Zafar, thank you so much for being with us as well. All right, the person first, to the immediate agenda first. You know, it's Niranjan, why don't I start off with you actually? Part of the issues when it comes when you're doing any programming or any reporting or anything at all to do with Narendra Modi is that it seems to be almost a love him or hate him situation, where it's almost, and I'm sure you face that same problem as a biographer, that either you love Narendra Modi and you worship him, and if you say anything which is not saying that he is the greatest ever, then you're terrible, or you have to slam him. So walking the fine line is tough.
It's actually very tough, and walking on it was really very difficult for me, but somehow or the other, maybe thanks to years of training in this profession and interacting with very good professionals, I was possibly able to succeed. But
both sides trash you. I'm not sure you said both sides.
Both sides love the book, both sides trash the book. I think that's the best.
Is this something which we are going to see now, where when it comes to Narendra Modi as Prime Minister, it's going to be difficult to be dispassionate? You'll be, I mean, actually it's a job of the media to always be dispassionate and nonpartisan. But if you're saying, hey, it's such a great step that he's taken to call people over from SAARC, people will say, oh, you're a Modi apologist. Or if you criticize something you do, oh, you're a Modi basher. Is there going to be a lot of that?
You have given the words to my thoughts. I was just thinking, that what does this real mandate means? This mandate is actually for two Modis. One Modi who comes in with the track record of his governance in Gujarat over the last 13 years. He's an efficient governance man. Two dimensions to that. One, a very efficient CEO who is a very good service provider. The other is questionable policies, which is what raises the heckles of those who are criticizing him, and also those who really love Modi. They think that his policies have been correct. There is also the political dimension of Modi, which is got the mandate. The political dimension of Modi is that he has a baggage of 2002 and he has a promise of 2014. So, I think in his entire tenure, however long it is going to last, he is constantly going to juggle between the two facets of his personality, the political Modi and the governance Modi.
Okay.
And also the love him or the hate him. That will continue.
Right. Ajay, let me get you in on this. So this is something which has certainly been true. Now, how all of this is going to change in the dynamics? Narendra Modi is now the Prime Minister of India. He's not the Prime Minister of the 31 or 32% of people who voted for him. He's not the Prime Minister of the BJP or the Prime Minister of the, some states. He's the Prime Minister of India, so he's everyone's Prime Minister now. And that's, I think, a point that he's also been making in his speeches. But this love him or hate him syndrome that we've seen for a while, is that something that you think is going to now change and we're going to have a more normal dynamic and dialectic around Narendra Modi?
Well, I think that you've already seen the immense support that was given to him by the people of India. And in a sense, the Ab Ki Baar Modi Sarkar as a slogan and as a campaign worked because people in actual fact wanted Ab Ki Baar Modi Sarkar. So it resonated across the country. Now the skeptics that he has, I think quite a large number of those he changed around with his actions since he has taken over. Even during the campaign, the slogan of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas was being reiterated to say that he was not going to be the Prime Minister only of a certain section of India, but of all of India. After he was sworn in, the speeches that he has made have made it abundantly clear that he intends to be a Prime Minister of all of India. He has already likened the struggle for freedom with his agenda for governance and development of India. The respect that he showed to Parliament, the steps that he has taken by inviting the SAARC leaders, his call to action where he said that it was a privilege for him to be able to serve the country. I think it made all of us proud. We have a fantastic Prime Minister. Now is the time to get behind him as he builds a strong and prosperous India, the India of our dreams.
Even, I think the 2 points that Niranjan made was pretty much being echoed also by in the rest of, as Prime Minister of India, now he's got the eyes of the entire world on him, right, to a massive extent. The points that Niranjan made were what a lot of the foreign press is also talking about. Look, he's obviously clearly been a great administrator in Gujarat and CEO and pro-business and all that is wonderful. But then some of those other questions. His actions since he won the election, have they been a positive surprise for many people in the international community? Not just the inviting of the SAARC leaders, but also the speeches which were inclusive, talking about I represent 1.25 billion Indians, not one segment, stuff like that.
And he apologized to the Gujaratis. If he'd done anything wrong, he apologized. I mean, he's really coming in very modestly, despite this huge mandate that he's had. And he seems to be purposefully going against this notion that he is going to be some sort of arrogant dictator. I think his initial moves have been, terrific. This invite to all the other leaders in the region, very gracious in responding to the world leaders who have wished him well. So I think that there is a great sense outside of the country, and I think also foreigners like solid answers. Had this been a hung parliament, had it been this sort of uncertain alliance of various regional players that people outside of India don't really know, Jayalalitha, Mamta, Mayawati, how does that work? The foreigners don't have to deal with a collection of 5 or 6 kind of satrap players. They just have Modi. And there is a sense that he wants to take his place on the world stage, which India really hasn't done, right? I mean, India's sort of been at the kids' table of international relations for a long time, very parochial, very inward-looking. There is this sense from Modi that he wants to sort of have a coming-out party for India in the global stage, and we may see that in September.
Even on the global stage, you're saying there's certainly a honeymoon period. You
Absolutely.
seem to be saying that people have been positively surprised by what's happened since so far, at any rate.
It's a clear mandate. That's what foreigners like. Okay. And that's why the stock prices has been going up.
I mean, look, we always knew that the markets would go up. I mean, that's,
no doubt.
But going up or down of the stock market doesn't necessarily make somebody a
Everybody
good leader
likes
or a
making
bad
money,
leader.
though, and even foreigners, right? And so when someone's making money, that improves their image.
Okay, somebody making money. Now that's music to the ears of Manoj. So Manoj, I've got to get you in on that. That part of the story was always something that was easy to sell. And when we're talking about the forward-looking agenda, That, from all accounts, is what we're going to see a fair amount of. So there's the social and the political agenda, and there's the business and the economic agenda. Business and economic agenda presumably will be somewhat easier to lock down in the weeks and months ahead.
What we're seeing is a Prime Minister in Narendra Modi that is demonstrating a very clear intent, an intent to govern and an intent to lead, which we haven't unfortunately seen over the past decade. And that's something that's both exciting domestically and, as the previous speaker has said, internationally as well. Because for somebody that has lived in the West, been brought up in the West all of these years, I'm fed up of being told that India has potential. I think in Modi we're seeing an opportunity where that potential will be realized. And so to that extent, I think this is a real moment in history that I hope in 5 years and in 10 years' time we'll look back on and say the Indian electorate were absolutely right in choosing Modi and giving him such an emphatic victory.
Right. Shiv, the economic agenda is somewhat simpler. If you turn now to the social message and the political message that has to be communicated, the words that we have seen so far from Narendra Modi, he's actually made it reasonably clear right now. I'm not going to be talking in terms of, oh, I'm going to do this for the Muslims or I'm going to do this for the Hindus. I'm just going to leave it at this, that sabka saath, sabka vikas, and I represent 1.25 billion Indians. Is that fine? Is that good enough? Would you have liked to have seen him going a little bit further in directly communicating to reassure sections of the public, or no?
Okay. Mine might be a marginal view, but I think what he has done so far is a modest beginning with a lot to be modest about. Let's be clear about one thing. If you want to be objective, Narendra Modi is just a hypothesis. Good Chief Minister.
Hypothesis, I thought.
No, I think you'll have to see that in terms of the India of the future, mere attitudes won't do. You have to scale up a certain kind of administration. You have to dream a different kind of politics. You've got to think of a different kind of future. Where are these questions answered? I know it's unpopular to say this, but maybe not being a foreigner and being someone who has watched Modi for 10 years, I'd like to be convinced.
So you're saying it's right now still a hypothesis. Even the business and he's going to be effective and decisive, it's a hypothesis right now.
The chorus is there.
It needs to be tested. Manoj, you want to take that?
The fact is that he's been elected on the basis of a very clear mandate. He's been elected on the back of his track record. He's been elected on the back of the Gujarat model, which has been debated and discussed and torn into various different parts.
But Manoj, just to be specific, Manoj, the point is slightly different. Yes, that's what he was elected on. What Shiv seems to be saying is, now let's see, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Let's see what he actually does in India over the next few weeks and months and years before you can really then come back and saying, yes, what was Modi like as a leader, as an administrator? So is it too early? He's saying it's just a hypothesis at this stage.
Look, that's a very obvious point. Of course, we've got to see how Narendra Modi performs over the next period. And the fact of the matter is that this economy in India is in a deep sense of a mess. The economy has been left in such a terrible position. There's no magic wand that Narendra Modi or the Bharatiya Janata Party have or the NDA have. And so that reality will bite in very, very quickly. And it's something that I think the modest statements and the way in which Narendra Modi has systematically addressed the nation over the last few days is explaining to the nation that the road is going to be tough. Achhe din aane wale is not an event, it's a process. And what he's asking the Indian public to do is to join him in that process.
Okay. Let me turn then to the other point that Niranjan was speaking about. And when at the time when Modi won the election, two big questions were there in a lot of people's minds, especially in the foreign media. One big question, of course, was how is he going to deal with the neighbors and Pakistan and all of that? And I think he's answered that. At least he's made a gesture in that direction. The second big question was presumably, how is he going to deal with the minorities and the Muslims in particular? And we've seen certain statements in that direction. But there's no verdict on that right now, which is coming out. I think everyone is waiting and watching.
Absolutely. But Vikram, campaigns are very important. You know, you're right. We have no idea.
And it wasn't a particularly sectarian campaign from his point of view.
Exactly.
There were others who...
Not only was it not a particularly sectarian campaign, but it was smart, it was well executed, and he worked hard. Those are three incredibly important things. And you can tell a lot about a government coming up by how they executed their campaign. He did a really good job, and so that's a very hopeful symbol. I mean, I think had the Congress won, it was a disorganized campaign, didn't really have a theme, they didn't really work. I mean, and that would have sort of given very little hope for the government. This campaign was disciplined, they hired very smart people like Manoj and Ajay, they did their job, they did it well, that gives you a lot of hope.
Okay. डॉक्टर कासमी, एक तो कैंपेन में मोदी के क्या स्पीचेस थे, क्या बयान थे, और अब जब वो प्रधानमंत्री बन गए हैं, उनके जो बयान आ रहे हैं, उनसे जो मुसलमान समुदाय है, क्या रिएक्शन हुआ है? क्योंकि वो जो कह रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं सबका साथ सबका विकास, मैं हर एक हिंदुस्तानी का प्रधानमंत्री हूं और मैं सारे 125 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों को अपने साथ लेके जाऊंगा। इससे क्या, इन बयानों से क्या देश के मुसलमान संतुष्ट हैं? क्या कुछ और सुनना चाहेंगे? उनके जहन में अभी भी क्या किसी किस्म का वहम है कि नहीं है?
Vikram Chandra, you are right that he is the Prime Minister of all entire country and he represents the entire country. But so far as the minority community is concerned, minority community is very much in fear and apprehensions are being expressed. They think, will it be the same Narendra Modi who patronized Gujarat massacre? Will Narendra Modi has to make clear, he dismantled minority commission in Gujarat. Will the same happen in center? When now Narendra Modi was campaigning all over the country, he was naming Hindus and all the Hindus living in Bangladesh and Pakistan, they are being victimized. If they come here, they are welcome. Only Hindus are not Christians. Sikhs, Jains are being victimized there. Why he only take communal lines? What does he take communal lines? In their manifesto, in the page number 62, there is written, the Hindu who will come from Pakistan or Bangladesh, they are welcome. But others will be treated as the infiltrators. Narendra Modi belongs to the same right wings. If he change himself, if he says that sabka saath and sabka vikas, does he has courage to distance himself from people like Giriraj Kishore, from people like Togadia, who openly advocated and said that loot the Muslims' property in the Hindu area.
I mean, and I guess
so. These things are being made clear by Narendra Modi.
Let me throw that question to Ajay. Although I guess what Modi would say is that I said that people should not make comments like this. He went on Twitter. He went on other things. Perhaps he should have made a speech on it as well. He went on things like Twitter to say that people should not make comments like that. Ajay, do you want to respond to that?
I think in all his utterances so far, Mr. Modi has made it absolutely clear that the BJP and Mr. Modi's government will stand for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And as he tries to develop the country and take it to a new level, every community will benefit, the minority community included. The state will not have a religion. That is absolutely clear that Mr. Modi, there will be absolutely no discrimination. I believe that Mr. Modi intends to develop the country at a rapid pace, and that should benefit just everybody. So in terms of specific references to the minority community, I think that in the coming times there will be more efforts made by the government to put any fears that the minority community might have to rest.
You heard what Dr. Kasmi said. What would be your reaction to that?
I have dealt with Mr. Modi directly. I have met him, and I met him first for 2.5 hours. I discussed every single aspect of 2002 when I met him. And when I met the man, I thought, after meeting him, my perception about Mr. Modi changed, and I thought that this is the man you can do business with. Now I'll tell you what, there was a tremendous process of vilification against Modi. So you never knew the man. There was there was a fierce psychosis brought that Modi aayega, Musliman barbaad ho jayenge. This was a kind of, SMSs, WhatsApp, Facebook, as if to defeat Modi is the only religious obligation left for the Muslims in the country. Now, Vikram, you have to understand, Muslims is not a different species than the Hindus. I mean, what are the issues in front of the Muslims of the country? The Muslim wants job. They want future of their children to be secured. They want to fight corruption. They want infrastructure. They want every single thing what a Hindu wants. The Hindu wants the same thing. The Muslim wants the same thing. You can't have a different set of solution for a Hindu and for a Muslim. So, Muslims want to come out. They want to come out from the victim-centric mentality which they had been subjected for 12 years. And Muslims have absolutely no fear about Modi, because Muslims have seen Modi governing Gujarat for the past 12 years. Forget about 2002 for the moment.
Dr. Kasmi wants to say something to you.
Dr.
The performance of Mr. Modi in Gujarat has been absolutely fearless.
Mr. Zafar Shahreswala, I humbly will ask you, will National Minority Commission will be dismantled likewise Narendra Modi did in Gujarat or not? Will Narendra Modi abolish the Article 341 which is based on the communal line? If any Dalit Muslims embrace to Islam, he will lose his benefit of being Dalit. If the same person convert to Hindu, he will get again. So these things are, will Narendra Modi will address these things?
Let me reply. We had pointedly raised this question to Mr. Modi, that when you become the Prime Minister, will you abolish the Minority Affairs Ministry? Will you abolish the various minority democratic institutions like National Minority Commission, Minority Finance Corporation, Hajj Committee? What are you going to do with that? And Mr. Modi said this, I'll put inverted commas directly. Mr. Modi said, I don't know how these Minority Affairs Ministry was formed or various minority institutions have come up. But now when they are there, I will see that they are strengthened. I will give them more power, and we will evaluate a process to measure that various schemes which are announced by the government of India, whether they reach to the Muslims or not. So he will actually strengthen them and he will evaluate them.
What about the scholarship?
And how they are
scholarship for Muslim students?
Regarding that
we are getting a bit into
mentioned.
Okay,
I think. No, listen to me.
Yeah, carry on, Zafar.
Vikram, just 1 minute, one more minute. We also raised this question of common civil code, and Mr. Modi said, he said to a group of Muslims, he said that common civil code, when we said that we might see, it does not mean that we are going to hum Hindu law nahi thopenge. And he said, whenever any discussion happens on that, we will take inputs from various stakeholders, the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, all the stakeholders.
Okay.
So we are not going to put anything without proper discussion.
Okay, we'll wait and see. So I think let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. I don't want to convert this thing entirely.
Mr. Modi is winning.
Okay, can I just come on to another aspect? So okay, first you want to weigh in on this. I think, look, what he is going to actually do. One was the statements that he needed to make to reassure everybody. He's made some statements. Perhaps he can make more. A broader question, it's not entirely about just the scholarships and what he's going to do on this law or that law.
It's a much bigger issue.
The question is, as a person, and that's what we're trying to understand to some extent of the program, as a person, as a man, is he going to be fair and unbiased to all communities? Because that, at the end of the day, is what you expect of the Prime Minister. He may take one decision or a second decision. Your sense of meeting with him, interacting with him, the rest of it is, as somebody walking in the midpoint.
My sense of meeting him and interacting with him is that he will be fair to the extent that he thinks is fair. But would that for us be fair? For instance, this entire issue of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. He thinks that that is a brilliant one-liner that is inclusive. It takes about everybody. Same thing. He has gone and apologized to the people of Gujarat when coming away, that if I have had many mistakes. He's used a a typical JN movement, used it for the second time in a political career in the last 3 years.
Right.
If anyone has, if I have hurt anybody, please excuse me. But after 2002, a specific, when a community was targeted, can you come up with a very broad, I am sorry, everyone is with me? Probably he has to reach out more,
okay.
which
So
he is not.
He has to reach out more, more on that point is the point that you're making. And I want to come back again to looking at Modi coming, now he's the Prime Minister, what sort of a Prime Minister he's going to be. One thing that very clearly comes out and stands out, and it stood out as a beacon through this entire election campaign, is the extent to which he's authoritative and decisive is the words that we keep hearing used. Ajay, I have to say, as part when you were building the campaign, that probably was one of the key themes that you picked up on and you wanted to go on hammering on. To the contrast in leadership styles is something that probably paid you rich dividends. Now in governance, is that something we're going to see at a very concrete basis? A totally different style and method of functioning to anything that we've seen before. And I'm not just talking about the last 10 years, I'm saying anything that we've seen before.
Well, it was obvious to us that the last 10 years had been a disaster in terms of the lack of leadership, and whatever leadership there was extremely indecisive. The people were completely frustrated, with the way the country was being governed. This massive inflation that you saw, the massive unemployment that you saw, the scams and the corruption were all a consequence of weak or completely absent leadership. And obviously, Narendra Modi presents a very stark contrast to that in the fact that he is so decisive and that he is so focused. And going forward, I would think that Mr. Modi's focus and his decisive and clear-sightedness will greatly serve this country and take it to new heights. And I think that this contrast would be appreciated by the people of the country. So it's something that we need to build on, that we need to capitalize on as a country.
Right. Shiv, let me turn to you now on a people have sometimes asked, look at the state of this mandate and what's the magic that Modi holds. Sometimes, especially in a situation of leadership vacuum, societies, countries, people crave for that vacuum to be filled. They crave for leadership. To your mind, is that one of the key aspects of Narendra Modi's attraction and appeal right now to India? One of the reasons why he got this landslide victory?
Yes. Look, even a critic like me will have to acknowledge that Narendra Modi is popular and intensely popular in the mass sense. But let's take just one simple example, which I think people are forgetting. Given now that he is Prime Minister, the new state religion is development. And once you talk about development, you can't talk of minorities alone. You've got to talk of the margins. You've got to talk of tribes, nomads, craft people. You've got to talk about the fate of agriculture. The margins add up to more than the minorities. There's a silence about this.
Okay, fair enough. The decisive part of it, is that something which you have seen?
I think so. It's going to be a completely different kind of governance, the completely different kind of manner in which he's going to probably end up picking up his cabinet and his council of ministers. Each and every appointment is going to be personally decided by him. The BJP, for the first time, we will have a situation where there will be one boss at the head of 282 members of parliament. And also he is
what
going
about the government of India? I mean, that one boss is something which even the government of India has not really been used.
I think we'll have to still see that to what extent is the process of centralization happening in this government. It's still too early for us to see whether any structural changes are being made or not, whether any major minorities are being tackled, tinkered around with. The issue of minorities keeps on coming up. Is he going to have a separate ministry for minority affairs? Is it going to be scaled down? Various other things, destructuring the entire home ministry, moving out internal security from personnel, for instance, making it more effective.
And of course, the choice of cabinet ministers
what
all
on a day-to-day basis is personally being scrutinized by the PMO, and also most importantly, the character of PMO. Who are the people who are manning it?
All right. Manoj, running India is different from running Gujarat. For starters, there are times when Mr. Modi will have to take the states along with him. He'll have to talk to the states. Let's say GST has to be rolled out. You've got to get the states involved. Things have to be taken to Parliament. What to your mind are we likely to see?
I think if you go by what we've seen during the election campaign, and I think that's a very interesting way to look at this, you saw in Narendra Modi somebody that was exciting. And what makes him exciting is his conviction. He's a real conviction politician. And therefore, anything that he does not do in half measures, as you saw during the election campaign. The second two elements of this are, one, that you saw absolute clarity in terms of the messaging that we were able to convey and the messaging that Mr. Modi wanted to portray. And second, and the other aspect of this is consistency. And these are the three aspects of Narendra Modi's character which I think going into government we can expect to see from him. Frankly, what more can you ask from a Prime Minister?
This election started with the communal rights from the Gujarat. It was the first chapter. And last chapter ended with the communal right, with the innocent life of Assam people, which was taken by the people. So this election was fought on communal line.
Not entirely.
Amit Shah was making a statement like that, and then Togadia, people like Togadia, Giriraj Kishore, and Imran Masood, I don't think. But Narendra Modi never condemned Giriraj Kishore, never condemned Togadia.
Okay.
So, and you,
let me get Gardner.
Let me make one point. Let's be clear that there are huge contradictions in this campaign and in Narendra Modi. He can do the communal stuff or he can do the economic stuff, but he can't do both. If he goes down the communal lines, he will kill himself on the economic lines because people like me, the executives that he wants to come into India and create jobs will simply not come if he goes there.
You're saying that whatever may have happened in the past is a reset button right now.
And I think
he has to take everyone with him.
And I think that he understands. This is a really interesting audience here, right? It's a fairly young audience. It's mixed, mostly sort of Western styles with a little bit of Indian color thrown in. These are the people. My guess is all of you all have sort of gone by the rules, you've studied, you've gone to college, you have done everything everyone has asked you to do, and you've come out of college, and there just aren't the opportunities there should be for you. And there's only going to be a few more years of this being allowed to happen before there will be another political earthquake, Vikram, because there is 1 million of these people coming out every single month. 900,000 Indians come of job age every month. And there is a sort of a rule of thumb in politics that if 1/3 of your youth are unemployed, you will have a revolution. This has been a political revolution. If he doesn't get the economy turned around fairly quickly, there will be another. And the leadership thing is very important to this. To some extent, one of the most important things that he's going to do is he's going to go to the ministries and say, General Secretary, I see you didn't sign the file. What happened during the last bit of the UPA regime was that files would simply disappear into the ministries, right?
Yeah.
So here is a guy with every promise of coming in and sort of saying, okay, where is the file? Whose desk is it on? Why haven't you signed it? Let's get it moving. And just a little bit of that sort of leadership push could, at least for the first year, have an enormous effect. He's going to have to do
Let me throw that to Ajay. I think those are two really interesting points. Ajay, let me throw those to you, and maybe I'll get Manoj in as well, and perhaps Zafar as well, people who work closely with Narendra Modi. The point that Gardner's making is that, look, whatever may have happened in 2002, whatever may be happening in the election campaign, and he didn't actually, Dr. Kasmi, say a lot of that. There were others who made those comments. But the point he's making is that now as Prime Minister, his focus has got to be and will be on the economy and getting it right, and how do we get that moving. Would you agree with that, Ajay?
No, I think Mr. Modi has made that abundantly clear in the speech that he gave just after he was elected as the Prime Minister. There will be out of the box thinking. There will be a great deal of supervision of large projects and a great deal of attempt by everybody to ensure that the economy moves quickly and that jobs are created and that we are on a fast track to growth.
Zafar, let me get you in on that. And from whatever we've heard, Mr. Modi does have some ideas, and in Gujarat has put it into practice, some thoughts of how you can make administration work faster. In what ways do you think some of that can be transplanted now to Delhi?
There are certain qualities, inherent strengths which Mr. Modi has. He is workaholic. He is one of the few chief ministers who finishes off reading of the newspapers by 5 o'clock in the morning. He is very punctual. He is himself a visionary. He has a lot of ideas. When you sit with him, he has ideas of governance, new ideas. And you know, it's very unfair to call him dictatorial. Actually, he is very decisive. So the days ahead for people who are around him and below him, he will just keep them on check and try and start putting things in order. I think this would be a great day for Indian democracy.
Manoj?
I think you'll see in Narendra Modi somebody that takes the responsibility of government very, very seriously. We saw that in Gujarat, and I'm sure we will see that now in Delhi as well. When we look at the region, he also, you can see, accepts one other fact, that we live in a neighborhood that has been very unsettled over the years, and that huge gesture of inviting the leaders from the various SAARC countries to the swearing-in ceremony is bringing them closer. That is, I think, one of the masterstrokes of diplomacy, and something that you've seen almost on the very first few days of his coming into power.
Right. I just want to get you in on that point that Zafar was making. He's not dictatorial, he's decisive. Sometimes these things blur into each other.
I think there will be grey areas in everything. For some people, he'll be dictatorial. For some people, he'll be fairly decisive, because it's a question of how you want to look at it. But coming back to Mr. Modi, basically what is he in search of? He is in search of political immortality. He wants to become probably the most important political leader in India since Mahatma Gandhi. How does he do it? He does it by the good way, which means that going on the highway of development. It's a very difficult route, especially given the kind of state of economy that we are in. He also has a shortcut, the back alleys of sectarianism. I only hope that he does not take a shortcut and he sticks his neck out and insists that he is going to find his space in Indian history, become politically immortal by the good and the more difficult highway.
Shiv, if he takes a shortcut of sectarianism, which is one of the routes that has been talked about, it may be a very short-term benefit.
I'm not worried about the shortcut. I think this is what I have to convince.
Can I also get you on the dictatorial versus decisive?
Yeah. Let's look at the development model. Let's take Gardner's point about employment. Employment is not going to be easy to guarantee to such a big population. You have to think about the nature of technology. You've got to think about the fate of agriculture. At that moment, a man who looks decisive may have no sense of irony, paradox. And I think this is going to be the problem. It's not decisiveness. It's the nature of feedback. Please, right now, you can write all the good conduct certificates you want to Modi, and I'll also assign it as a citizen of India. The question is the nature of the future. We can't follow a Western developmental model. I think one has to be clear that the nature of this model is going to be very diverse. We have tribes, we have nomads, we have marginal groups and communities. They will not be amenable to one development model. Let's take one irony, Jawaharlal Nehru. He said, dams and laboratories are the temples of modern India. And we landed up displacing as internal refugees over 40 million people. We have more refugees from dams than all the wars we have fought. It's ironic.
Okay.
It wasn't totalitarian.
Okay.
And I think that's the paradox we have to face.
Let me take a break. I want to come to the audience, get some of their views in, and then I'll come back to the panel one more time.